in our invocation. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father which art in heaven, dear Lord God, we thank you for your many blessings you bestowed upon the city of Dillon. Dear Lord God, we ask that you continue to bless our mayor, city council, our city manager, our city attorney, and all the department heads on tonight as we are gathered together to make decisions for the betterment of all the citizens of Dillon. And in everything we do, we pray, we be careful to give your name the glory, your name the honor, and your name the praise. But in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Welcome everybody here on this wet, rainy night. I think it's probably about going for at least a week and a half. I think it's Wednesday, so it's supposed to shower. So we need it here in Dillon. I'm sure PD does too. I have a motion to approve the agenda. Second. All in favor? Opposed? I have a motion to approve the minutes on October 12th, regular scheduled meeting.
Do we need to?
I don't think we need to amend anything.
No, you don't.
Executive session, we don't have to put that in.
It's there.
Have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Have a second. All in favor? Opposed? And I know we got a lot tonight, and we got an executive session. I just got a couple of points. First of all, I want to thank Councilwoman Manning for going to the Criterion Center this past Saturday night to celebrate their 70th year of service to Dillon community. I got a letter from them. She was most gracious to go on my behalf. I thought I was going out of town. I did not go, but I thought I had to go in case, ahead of time. But thanks to Criterion Club for all they do for the youth and the service club that they are in the city of Dillon and the surrounding area. Also, let me remind you, Wednesday, I'm almost sure it's 11 a.m. We got our Veterans Day ceremony right out in front of the City County Complex building right here. Dillon always has a good turnout on Veterans Day, so if y'all can make it, please come. You'll find it to be very rewarding, and I think you'll be real impressed when you leave. We still having issues on, I want to say, petty crime in Dillon. So, your neighborhoods are the greatest deterrent, and your neighborhood watch. And I would just be a big advocate of the neighborhoods keeping up doing that. 3 homes in my neighborhood within a block were hit the other night. They're even going in your carport in broad daylight. So just be careful, be on the lookout, and look out for your neighbors. That's the best way to handle it. To notify the authorities. It's just kind of running out there right now. We're doing the best we can. Those departments been on top of it. A lot of things you can't prevent, and just got to do your best to prevent it from happening to start with.
They need to lock their car door.
Lock your car door, that's exactly right. It makes it easy when you don't. And I think if you put things visible in your car, like money or whatever, they'll attempt to get in there whether it's locked or not. So don't make it more enticing than it already is. I talked to Glenn a little bit the other day with all the rain. I think we're going up, or we have been doing spraying for the mosquitoes. The warm weather and the rain has brought them out. I know that for a fact. I was sitting in a ball field the other night, short pants, and had to leave. So we're going to pick that up. I mentioned last month about the city ballpark. I want to stay on with that. A lot of times we come up here and we say we're going to go with something and work on a plan, and in 2 or 3 months the plan's off the table. I want to see something on a preliminary basis on that soon. We got $864,000 sitting in 2-cent hospitality fund. We got money to do something out there. At least clean it up.
What are you talking about?
The ball fields behind Darwin. I went out there the other week. We got tree limbs down, which hasn't been used since the state tournament. We hold the state tournament. Out there they do a great job. They fix it up, they dress it up real well. But as I stated the other day, that was a gym for the community. It really isn't a gym any longer. It needs work.
Who's responsible?
We are.
I know, but
It's ours. I mean, I don't think it's anybody's.
We just hadn't spent any
Just
money
haven't-
out there
haven't
to
done anything.
build it. I mean, everything's getting aged. Our asphalt walkway is struggling, fight potholes with it. Our lighting is inefficient. We need to replace the shingles on the building, the roof. I mean, that thing's almost 20 years old.
It's time to fix it up.
We don't realize after the time there that long. Yeah, we started building that in the mid-90s. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get with the department. I'm not talking anything immediate, but over the next 3 or 4 months, we can get something on a preliminary basis would be nice. Bringing in a landscaper might be just something. I think we can steal some ideas from some other areas. Anyway, we'll work on that. Commerce Street. Talked to Hardy coming in. The lift station out on Commerce was getting a little better. I went out the other day to the wellness center, and then the following night out to the Christian school, and it's gotten to be way worse. Purdue's been a great corporate citizen and neighbor, but something's got to be done on Commerce. I don't know how or what we need to do on a temporary fix. But you got the high school no more than 300-400 yards. You got the wellness center. You got the Christian school right on down. So we need to put something on Purdue, Hardy, to get them moving on Commerce. Again, they got issues, I'm sure, and I know we got issues.
Well, with that, and we're working on a grant through the state, and we did bids. Was it this past month we did bids on that one? And it just came in too high.
What can be, that's a total.
Well, it's still going to have to be redone from an engineering standpoint, from a smell. That we're going to have to inject something to kill the sulfur. What is it, sulfur?
We're going to add lime to keep the hydrogen sulfide down where you won't have that smell.
Who adds the line?
We looked at buying equipment through that grant to put the lime in at Purdue. And that's what come back.
But does Purdue have a responsibility of keeping the smell down? Is their material going through and causing it?
They should have some responsibility, yes.
It just isn't fair to the people at the wellness center. You've got, the holiday fair coming, the chili cook-off, the things we hold at the wellness center, the ball games. I carried a guy looking for real estate out there the other day. He loved Commerce Drive. That's where he was looking to come plant. And luckily that day was in the middle of the day. It weren't that bad, but that would totally drive a sale away from the property.
you can't run that, you can't pipe that station down the railroad track, put it down there about a half a mile, and then come back with another pipe. I mean, why can't you move that thing?
You're still going to have to smell it.
But it'll be a half a mile down the, it'd be in the swamp. You're not gonna smell it that bad in the swamp.
Talking about piping it towards the river.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty good cost.
And then turn back around and come back.
It beats $100,000 a year to process that stuff. How big's that pipe?
It's 18-inch horsepower.
Okay, so,
It's
a mile of pipe. How much is that gonna run?
Well,
On today's price.
And then, all right, so what's the lift station? How much does it cost? That $100,000?
Yeah,
Probably $500,000.
Half a million at least.
$500,000 for a lift station?
Yeah, those are 100 horsepower.
that's a huge lift station.
Well, it's not like you're not gonna be able to use the
Well, what we got in place, we think it's going to work, whether we pay for it directly or Purdue's going to pay for it indirectly or opposite or vice versa. But when the bids came in, it was like $700,000, and that was just
to do what?
to do this lime feed, and that's just, that's just too much money. So what we come to find out, and Hardy, make sure I state this right, is the company the vendor who is supplying the materials, which would include pumps and things of that nature, they're going to do a lot of the labor. But the bid portion, the contractors who were bidding on it did not understand that, and they were using their labor, not the company's labor, the vendor's labor. So we've got to rebid it, and hopefully that's going to cut $200,000 to $300,000 out and get back to the ballpark of where we were anticipating $300,000 to $400,000 project, which the RIA grant, the Rural Infrastructure Grant that we got from the state, is just that much, $350,000, which we were hoping to use to pay for this project, which is still on the table. We just got to rebid it again to make sure the contractors who are bidding on the project understands that most of the labor is going to be provided by the vendor. Their cost is tied up in the equipment cost. Is that correct, Hardy?
Yes.
So hopefully, and I've gotten calls from the Christian school, preschool, and I've talked to them, and I've told them what we're doing and hoping to resolve this issue. Because on certain days, it's tough.
It's worse than the sewer treatment plant.
It is tough.
Why does it vary?
Depending on what they send us and how long it sits in that line and the weather.
If I can ask, don't Richmond County have a Purdue plant?
They do.
Is it any way we can ask them if they got the same problem, how they alleviated the problem? I mean, just curious.
It would be a good place to start.
Well, whatever Purdue can do, I'm just asking to ask them to do it. I mean,
Well, we
if
should be.
things in the line a little less or running a little more.
See, a year ago, we met with them about this time, and they started adding some additional line, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And that helped for a while.
But then they stopped.
Then they stopped.
Well, you
What are
can
the
tell them
concentrations running out there? You watching those?
Yes, sir, the ammonia's coming in anywhere from 29 to over 30.
that's high.
Yes.
But what about
They're
concentration?
Well, that is the concentration on it.
That's the concentration of ammonia. What about your,
The BOD and the CODs are pretty good. They usually in line with those. It's the ammonia that's killing us. That's where that smell.
that's where the smell comes from.
Yes, sir.
I know it got better one time. I
And
thought it's
and
all
during
over
that time, and during that time it got better, we were doing different trials with different products, trying to see what we could add to, keep the smell
I
down.
know one time there was a vent that somebody,
It's still there.
It's still there. That hadn't been a
It's helped keep the fumes and stuff off the panel where it won't eat it up as bad.
all right, well,
but that's something we're still dealing with.
if you push Purdue to do it, because if not, I guess we can get it done one way or the other.
Well, that's my point. Either we do it and they pay us indirectly because
Over time, yeah.
everything we do, how they charge is based on what our cost is, which, changes annually for them. So they either pay us directly or indirectly, however you want to look at it.
We did have, like I say, what we have out there in form of schools. I mean, it's just
capital investment.
place to have. Okay. I know you're talking about the bridge here in a minute. I'm not going to ask anything on that. Also, I went up to, a couple weeks ago, they had a candlelight service for the PD Coalition for Domestic Violence, and Dillon's not sitting in a very good spot, ranked in the state on domestic violence, and it's a terrible thing to live with. There is help, so if anybody out there has that problem, they can call the city. I don't know the number, or the Dillon office, or the Florence office, but there is a place to go.
There's a golf tournament Friday for that.
That's right, there sure is. But there's more women killed in that than it has been for Iraq and Afghanistan. So, anyway, that's all I have.
What I'm going to do, which in my report, Ms. Margaret Popes here from Pope Flynn, our bond attorney, to discuss the two ordinances that we have presenting for our first reading tonight, 1510 and 1511, which deals with state revolving fund loan that we have applied for and been granted to do the work that's going to relocate the sewer line at the Little PD River Bridge from 301. So this time I'll just turn it over to Ms. Pope, and then after her discussion with you, I have some more items, and then we can go into the ordinances soon after that. All right, Ms. Margaret?
If everybody can hear me, I'll stand here, I guess. The first one you have is an amended and restated bond ordinance, and it is the larger, the thicker of the two ordinances that you have. This document does not authorize the issuance of a particular series of bonds. It simply says if we issue bonds, they will be issued in accordance with this ordinance, and we will comply with the covenants and promises that we have made in here. As you know, when you issue bonds, the people who will come after that first bond issue, they want to know, well, under what circumstances may the city issue additional bonds, because they're very interested in credit issues and that sort of thing. And it is in this document that you give the promises that you will not borrow more money unless your revenues are at a certain level. You promise that you will keep your rates at a certain level, so annually you have certain ratios of net revenues to debt. It also is where you make the promise that you will keep the system insured and other necessary covenants and promises in order to issue debt. It is fairly generic. We chose...
What's the ratio of that?
1.2. You want your net revenues to equal 1.2 times the debt service. And that's a very normal, gives a cushion. And that is very normal. Sometimes you see, pardon?
Our revenues are like $7-8 million a year. Is that, Ken?
For water and sewer?
Oh, just water and
Just
sewer.
water and sewer.
Oh, okay.
This only applies to your enterprise fund.
What's that, about 3.8, 4 million?
Almost 4 million, yeah.
So we'd have to have a debt service, we just have to have a revenue stream of $600,000 in order to borrow this?
So it's not very onerous.
Okay. I just, I know we've got other projects, and I just don't want that,
Right.
$400,000.
1.2 is where y'all have been since I've been working for you, and I've been doing this for about 40 years. And I will promise you that there have been other spots where they wanted the ratios to be 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, but y'all have been a very stable community, and we have found that 1.2 has served you well. And we don't want it to be any more onerous than it has to be. So we kind of work it from that side, and the banks are always saying, well, why couldn't it be a little higher? And we said, we don't think it needs to be higher. The new document also allows you to do a lease purchase of equipment that's going to be used within the system, whereas your earlier document did not. And that's a good thing if you need to do that. It can be simpler, it can be less expensive. Not that you have a lot of equipment that you are going to be purchasing actually for your system. Usually people use lease purchase obligations for things like police cars and fire engines and that kind of thing. But this does allow you to do what you want to. As you know, Congress has spent a lot of time talking about that they would rather all of this kind of debt be taxable, so that the income the bank makes, or whomever is loaning you the money, has to report the interest as regular income, and they pay taxes on it. And they would rather do that, and then if they want to give you a subsidy, the federal government would then pay part of your interest payment. Well, they tried that for a while, and it did not work very well, because it didn't work well on my side of the fence or on your side of the fence, because lots of times, for example, the state of Florida had one agency that had not sufficiently paid their withholding tax on some of their employees, and so they didn't get their subsidy one year, and it was millions of dollars. And I talked to their state treasurer, and he said it was just awful. So you would rather debt be tax exempt, so you don't have to worry about a subsidy coming in and helping you. What you really then have to budget for is the higher interest rate, because you cannot ever be certain you will get it. I think we did about one or two of those types of issues when we could get a really, really, really good transaction from a bank. But if anybody ever asks you if you would rather have taxable debt and a subsidy from the federal government, please say no. You'd rather it just be tax exempt, because then we know what we have when we set the interest rate. But we did make provision that if that happens, this is how you treat it, because it's important to have that in there. There were not really many other changes. It was really just to modernize. Trish Comp, who runs the SRF and is your only bondholder, has approved the changes that we have made. The second and sort of skinnier or very thin ordinance is the one that is a series ordinance that says that it is being issued and authorized by you and adopted pursuant to the provisions in the one that really governs the debt. And what it does primarily, and the reason it can be so short, is because what it's doing is approving this loan agreement. And it's the loan agreement that Janet goes by when she is looking at how much she's got to pay and that kind of thing. Just to briefly summarize the terms of this loan, you are borrowing approximately $422,571. Now, what you'll probably do is end up borrowing a little bit more, because they do these as drawdowns. And then they calculate the interest on those drawdowns when the project is completed. And you have the option of either paying that interest out of hand right then, or you can fold it back into the loan. And most clients would rather fold it back into the loan and amortize it out over. This is a 10-year loan. The interest rate on this is 1.5, which I don't think anybody would complain about. Your quarterly payments are $11,396 at the assumed principal we have. You will be funding your reserve fund, which is the fund that has to just set over in an account, and it is where the city is to go to first if they ever have trouble making the payments. We are suggesting and agreeing with Trish that the reserve fund be established with the state treasurer's office. They are doing that now for the SRF, and they invest your money just as well as anybody else, and there are no fees. So it's a good program to get into. I believe you have to adopt a resolution to
What
open
percent do we have to have in that?
a reserve fund. Yes, it's required by the program.
How much do we have?
It's 1 year's payment, so it'll be about $45,000. And you get it back. Usually people use it sometimes to make the last year's payment. In this instance, it's probably easier to just pay it out, and then you can get the reserve money back when the loan is paid off. You are paying the state a closing fee of $1,056 that handles the paperwork they undergo for this, because they do most of their own work. They don't hire outside lawyers. It's just help them administrate. But that's basically what this is. To me, it's a fabulous loan. I don't know how long this interest rate will last. Most people are saying that at least
Ours will
short-term
last
rates are going up. Pardon?
Ours will last 10 years.
But yours will last 2 years. It is a fixed rate. And that's all you want. You don't want any of these variable rate loans, I promise you. I've never had a client do one and after a couple of years come back to me and go, you know, I was a damn fool. You told me not to do it, but I did it anyway. And it's just, it's so hard to budget when your rate is going to change. And lately we have been in some volatile markets. So I think it's great for cities and counties and school districts who have to know what they're supposed to budget is the way to go, unless interest rates are really high and you know they're going to come down. If they're really high, I try to talk people into postponing their project. Or do a variable rate, hoping it is going to come down and then at some point set it. But we have a fixed interest rate of 1.5, so that is an excellent rate. and it is for 10 years. So we're going to try to close this before Christmas so that you will have the money available. Janet and I and Glenn will, with Mr. McInnes, we will come with closing papers, and I know the mayor and clerk, finance director, manager, and city attorney will all sign documents with us. And we'll try to get that done. Second reading, I know, is in December. If you have questions between now and December, please call Janet or Glenn, and they will answer them, or they will call me, and I will answer them directly with you. I don't plan to come to the December meeting unless you want me to, but if something comes up between now and then and you have a question, I'm always available to answer questions, to write you back an email so you have it in writing, whatever you need. So with that, I bid you good night unless there are other questions.
You have any remarks? Thank you for coming. Thank you for letting us do it.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. I think with the rain, we're going to have that done high.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not bad to borrow $400 and some odd thousand and
1.5%.
pays back $33,000 over a 10-year period. Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, I just remember my first house loan, I moved to Charleston in 1981, and my interest rate was a bargain, 13.5%. All bargain. They had some down there that were paying 18%.
So that's not a bad deal whatsoever. We'll have the ordinance reading as we get to it in the, under new business. To follow up with that, we also received bids during the month of October for the relocation of these lines, and in my packet to you, you should have received a bid tabulation from Hannah Engineering. The low bid was from Mexican Public Pipeline, $335,448.25. I recommend that's who we hired to do this project. Recommendation also comes from South Carolina DHEC. Their office has reviewed and hereby approved the bid process documents that was submitted to them on October 29th of this year. The department concurs with the selection of the lowest acceptable bid as follows, which is McMahon Brothers Pipeline of Lexington, South Carolina. The high bid was for $402,000, and we received, 5 bids. So low bid was at $335,448, high bid was at $402,000. I make a recommendation that we accept the low bid from McMahon Brothers so we can get those folks started to work.
I make a motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
What we just did was not for this.
Yes, that's the money that ordinance that she talked about are the two
We're splitting
ordinances.
up the difference.
Pardon?
We're splitting up the difference.
What you mean?
I thought we borrowed 400,000.
We did,
But this is 330.
But there's more costs that are involved in
Okay.
that. Yeah, I mean, and I outlined that in my letter to you since you brought that up. The actual construction cost is $335,448. The loan from SRF is $422,571. There's a balance of $87,123 that we'll use for the following. $17,728 is additional money that we paid the engineering for planning and design that qualifies for this. Right-of-way acquisition of $700. Legal fees, $15,520. Construction contingency, $33,545.
All right, what's that?
That would be a change orders. Any change orders have to be done in the field.
That's not necessarily going to be spent.
That may necessarily not may be spent, that is correct.
The bid, when we accept the bid, are we on the hook for more than the bid?
There always could be change orders for something that comes up that was not planned for, or they find in the field that we didn't find. Yeah, there could be. I'll use the wellness center. That was a $5 million project roughly. We had 30 change orders when that was completed. We just didn't add up to a lot of money. It just, just never know.
Who's the legal fee? Somebody?
Legal fees would be Pope, anything we had to do with SRF.
Oh, that proves the loan and this?
Well, no, they're the bond attorney who does make sure that we can do what we say we can do on the loan. And then SRF is just another. SRF is a state institution. Pope Flynn is Margaret Pope. That's a private legal firm that deals in public financing.
So our legal fees were then defined financing was $15,000.
Roughly $15,520, which is a part of the ordinances. It's in there. And then I think then an additional $19,900 for inspections. So that makes up the difference back to the 422.
Basically, we just rerouting a pipe, but it takes $18,000 to design it, $20,000 to make sure the design's correct.
Actually, that 18,000 is probably more than that. That's just what SRF will let us go towards the loan to pay for.
I would probably take a loan for it.
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, you figure 10% of 335,000.
That's on top of that 17,000?
That would be the total. We've already paid some of this, of that 17,000. They just letting us reimburse ourselves back for it. So. But that is the breakdown. Do you have a motion to accept McMahon? Do you have a second, Ms.
The only
Bowles?
question I got is how do we know like
Can do it.
yeah, that's
Your
Well,
bond,
that's just,
versus the other.
yeah, I mean, that's just.
Take Hannah's word for it.
Well, I mean, you go by, anytime you do your bid process, you,
Because I'm looking at the directional drill. I mean, I don't know a lot about it. Harder, did you get to see this harder?
I haven't seen it.
I mean,
There's a lot of disparity.
yeah, it is. You know,
and everybody, and they go through, when you do a bid, everybody that bids fills out a sheet similar to this, and you look at everybody's numbers, line item by line item. Because you want to say, well, how can he do it for this, and somebody else the other 5 may be higher. And you want to see that everything is kind of equal at the end of the day. All the numbers are not going to be equal, but they have done work for us in the past. McMahon has.
Mike Hanna oversees that.
Yeah. Actually, 3 or possibly 4 of those bidders have done work for us in the past. All right. The next item I have, you got a motion, but I don't think nobody voted, did
All
you?
right, we had a motion.
second.
All in favor? Bid?
Uh,
Like sign, all those opposed? Carried.
Another project we have on the table that we did bids for this past month was the Orville Basin, which we talked about at the wastewater treatment plant. And this is the area where we've got to replace some catwalks, replace some aeration motors and things of that nature. When it was designed and the engineer gives what their estimate they think the cost is going to be, this one came in at that time, their estimate about $300,000 to $400,000 also. We received 6 bids out of this one. The high bid was $917,000. The low bid was $669,000, and that is not even close to what the estimate was. So that's going to be rebidded again.
That's
Just
what?
for the Orville Basin at the wastewater treatment plant. This one is just similar to one that on the bid process for the project we're doing out at the lift station at Purdue.
How much would the catwalk be?
I don't have all that broke down, but when you're moving things, you know, when you go into, is it aluminum?
Well, they talked about doing aluminum and then went back to metal to save the cost on it. They were looking at about $50,000 at one time for all aluminum catwalk.
But then you also got a lot of electrical. We got to redo our electrical panels and things of that nature.
Is there any grant money out there to help us with this?
Well, there is, but we're messing with grant money now, like rural infrastructure. You only can have one of those at a time. So we've been, with that one, trying to do this deal at Purdue. So you only can get one at a time on that kind of stuff. But that's gonna be rebid out because that just came in too high. The average bid was $750,000 out of the 6, where they were guesstimating $350,000 to $400,000. Now, back up to the relocation of the sewer line, we had guesstimated over time to be about $500,000, and it came in at $335,000. So you win some, you lose some when it comes to guesstimating per se. But just that is for information and information only. And as soon as we rebid that, I will let you know.
Where, all right, so you got this lift station that stinks,
Mhm.
and then that pipe continues on. Where do they meet? The pipe that comes across the river? Where are those two pipes?
At that lift station.
At the lift station.
At the lift
So
station.
we got an opportunity to move that thing, don't we? I'd say run that thing down in the swamp. They just stink in the swamp. Nobody lives there. Is that too?
Some people live in the swamp.
But why is that a bad idea?
Well, one, you gotta have property to run it on.
The pipe's on somebody's property.
Yeah, that's right now, when some
All we're
sort of,
doing is just running it down there. We got $500,000 anyway. What would be another couple of $100,000 to make that pipe redundant is basically what you're doing.
something we can find out. I don't know the ins and outs and what our actual cost would be, and if it would, I'm just trying to think in my head. You can come down Commerce Drive, go across Commerce, go north down the railroad area, and tie into our existing line somewhere there, just coming back south to that,
Right.
to that lift station.
That's the force main.
Yeah.
All
Because then,
you're
well,
doing is taking this,
but you got to move that. If you
you're gonna have to move your lift station. You're moving your lift station down there in the swamp. That's what stinks, right?
yeah.
It's coming out of the lift station when it goes into the wet
It
well.
costs you way more than you can
But
imagine.
you got a 30-inch gravity line that feeds that lift station. And you're gonna have to route that half a mile down the road.
What's coming now from the swamp?
I think it's a 12 or a 14-inch force main.
And see what's
no
feeding
gravity.
the lift station is 30-inch pipe,
Yeah.
which is a gravity line. I can't say it can't be done. I imagine it could be done, just is it cost
So,
effective
all right,
to do it?
the line that comes off of that is, after the lift station, that's 30 inches also, I assume.
It's 18.
That's 18.
It's 18
Force
inch
main.
force main.
Okay.
Commerce Drive, 5 days a week, gets over 2 million gallons a day.
I don't know why that wouldn't work. Me and my little mind.
Anything's possible.
I mean,
But is it, and it's something we can have to look at and compare.
basically you're looking at then a half a mile of 30-inch line, which will run it down there in the swamp to it, and moving that, when you got your pumps, those are still good, right?
Well, you're gonna have to come across the road, Commerce
You know
Drive.
what? We smart people, let's turn it over to Hannah and let him figure it out,
That's my point. And see if
But
it's,
I mean, why can't,
see what the cost,
Yeah.
compare the cost.
dig one ditch, put a 30-inch pipe in it and a 18-inch pipe coming back.
We can see it. The last thing I have is last month, Economic Development Director Tony McNeil presented the council a strategy for retail within the county and within the city. He was discussing a project that roughly was going to cost $75,000. He was throwing out some numbers of that 75,000, if I remember correctly. 25,000 was going to be from a grant, so that left 50,000 that the county, the cities, and the two other municipalities in the county were going to help fund. You should have gotten that in your packet, this strategy. Spoke with the county administrator today, Clay Young, to see where the county was on this. They are applying for the $25,000 grant. If they get that grant, they hope to go forward with contributions from the 3 municipalities along with them. And based on what I'm being told, they're now requesting $15,000 from the city of Dillon. Dillon County will put in $25,000. The grant would put in $25,000, which would then bring the total of $65,000 of the $75,000 that is needed. So then they're going to be short $10,000, hoping that the other two municipalities are going to put in. What is your desire? Do you want to entertain being a part of this project and putting $15,000 towards this retail strategy and market research analysis for recruiting of retail businesses, not only in the county, but within the city too? And if
I think it's something we ought to participate in, because it's gonna affect us probably as much or more than anybody with our presence on 34 and number 9. And it's a chicken and egg thing too.
I agree. Do we know a track record on this crowd that they're trying to hire?
that I do not know.
And I don't want to, I mean, it sounds like a great idea, but let's make sure we're spending our money on somebody who knows what they're doing.
Can we wait and see if they get awarded the grant?
Yeah, you can.
Decision?
You can, but they want some kind of commitment.
We've done a retail analysis too. We did something back when we were doing the...
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
That was a branding though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was tell us where we need to go and what we need to do.
What I read,
We
this
done
group-
any of it?
Yeah. Matter of fact, Marion County's taken that ball and run with it. We just paid for it.
Now this particular project is the folks that they hired, and I'm assuming it will be these people, whoever that is their job, and the money that they're being paid is to go out and recruit retail businesses along with this market study and
Is that part of
analysis.
the 75?
That's part of the 75, my understanding, yes. That they'll go out and be the recruiter for the county. And
From
these,
what I read in that original information that Tony gave us last month was that they have a pretty good track record with some of the major retail and restaurant chains, but that's all I could get out of it. But I think that's a good portion of it, is that we're paying them to do some prospecting and some recruiting as well, in addition to coming up with the analysis, market analysis.
I thought about Dillon, it's on the internet where there's all-electric car manufacturing, luxury car manufacturing, ready to build a $1.3 billion plant. And all they're going to employ, according to this, was like 500 or 600 people. I don't know how you build a car with 500 or 600 people. It's really automobile. I said, huh? It's not Tesla. No, it's a competitor of Tesla. And it supposedly is financed by some guy, some multi-billionaire from China.
Well, I'd make a motion to get it on the floor that we contribute 15,000 contingent upon the county getting the grant from NISA.
I second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed?
I think it's one of those things, if you're not trying, you're not trying.
Yeah, I think we need to do it one time, just to see.
Well, I mean, like I said, we probably have done this before, but I don't know that we had the attraction back in the early 2000s that maybe we do now.
I think the timing.
You
is
ride down
everything
Highway
right
9, now, I'm just telling you, that, it looks pretty sharp. And we got some areas right on I-95 that we could, fix up. But as you come along, it's coming into town, that's nice.
They've got to figure out how to get public in too, because I can't. see
Yeah, they
how
do.
lay down.
I don't know if they will, but, and that's, as Clay told me, that's something they'll figure out.
They can't get a grocery store without them.
That's all I have at this time, Mayor. Yes, sir.
I don't think we'll have much. This citizens report, anything anybody out in the audience like to bring to our attention?
I was looking over the minutes last time on it, that said we had a I&I of $4.5 million when it rained so much, brought that up last month. I can remember when we had, it was in the minutes.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah, I can remember when we had Maple Swamp over there, that thing would peak out at 10 million. We had a mess.
Unfinished business, none, new business. Yes, sir.
Mayor, I have a concern, and it's been on my mind going on about 6 months now. Right there on the 9th, I think it's 9th, in the store there. Every week or every 2 weeks, they got a block party. And I came through there, I think Friday evening. They had the liquor laid out on the table, where people can, you can go by and see it out there on the table. If we don't do something about it in the near future, we'll have a killing around there. Something got to be done. People got to have a socializing time, I understand that. But you're out there in the middle of the street, you can't get through there on 9th Avenue. We got a problem. A good citizen come through there, they got to blow their horn, sit there and wait on those people to get out the road.
At the,
Right there on that street right there.
What time of the night is it going on?
All night.
It starts on Saturday
It
night?
starts on a Friday, it doesn't matter. It's been going on for like 2 months now.
It starts in the middle of the day, and it starts at night.
Yeah, it starts up in the day, you're right. Miss Connie be going home, getting off from work, she see them gathering up. They have tough,
Table in the front
they
yard
have
with
tough
the umbrella sitting on it.
our block right there.
Tent over it.
Matter of fact, last weekend they knocked lights out.
Not right.
They knocked some lights out right there. People had to really go that night to motels and get a place to live because they knocked the lights out right there.
well, I think the chief's making a note on it right behind you.
Yeah.
Ninth and Calhoun.
In between Hampton and Calhoun.
Ninth and Calhoun.
200 block.
See it, you gotta run.
Anything else? No unfinished business. New business ordinance 1510 and amended and restated master bond ordinance for the Highway 301 sewer location project. If we already
Make a
voted.
motion,
Yeah, that's what she
Yeah, we
discussed.
just did that.
Ordinance 1511 SRF ordinance for Highway 301 sewer relocation project. That's the second one, weren't it?
That's correct.
We haven't voted on that.
I make a motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Council member reports.
Wait a second, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Did you vote on ordinance 1510?
I thought we did earlier.
No,
She was
that
just
was,
giving you
that
information.
was, what you voted on
I make the
earlier
motion.
was on the bid,
Oh,
the bids.
I make the motion.
all right, on ordinance 1510, we have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You did.
Now, council member reports. Mr. Eller, I'll start with you.
First of all, I'd like to thank Benny or Glenn or whoever made the effort to get Safeway cleaned up and the Shoney's area cleaned up. It looks a whole lot better now. I can't think, I guess I shouldn't do this, but I will. The Plaza Cinemas, I can't thank them enough for reopening. And it's been packed this weekend. Of course, the new movie come out, and it's just somewhere that the young kids can take advantage of and go and see a movie. And I also want to say something about the Speedway. They got a big event this coming weekend, and I hope that this will be aired this Friday night, and also the Dillon Herald will have it on his website. At the Speedway, the monster trucks are coming, and I think that's a great event for the citizens of Dillon County to take advantage of. So I just want to mention them two things, and also the cleanup effort that the city made in getting Safeway and Shoney's cleaned up. That's all I got.
Are they going to dig up those tanks at Safeway those are underground tanks?
Tire Mart, I think, owns that. I don't see nothing happening there at Safeway, because my understanding, they bought it so nobody else could buy it and open up a gas station.
Maybe we ought to tell them they need to get those tanks out of there then.
I don't think we have the authority to do that. That falls under DHEC. Sorry.
Any building that's in the, I guess it would be the West Main Street that was condemned, there was the thrift store or whatever. I noticed the condemnation signs are off the door, but that building still looks like it's in really bad shape inside. What's the status on that building?
Yes, and it's still under unsafe procedures. I think at this point in time, the procedures has been followed, but we're kind of a little reluctant about taking commercial buildings down.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Is there anything in it?
Nothing.
No, there's no business in it.
No, there's nothing in the building?
No, sir.
I mean, there's not an operable, there may be stuff inside of
That's
this.
what I mean, there's still stuff in the building.
There's not a business operating.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Anything else?
Well, I don't think, I don't really have anything. I'll get the clerk next week. If we had time for some stuff I need to get done over there, so I can discuss that with him on the week, it's all right. That's all right.
I want to say something about the animal shelter. There was, it's on Facebook, there was a post about donating food to the animal shelter. Literally said they ran out of food, which, I mean, if we can't pay to feed the animals, we lock up, we in bad shape as a society. I know Glenn, I talked to him about it the next morning, and because we send animals there, we did send 10 bags.
It was, I think, 10 or 15 bags of dog food and 5 or 10 bags of cat.
Yeah. They're looking for help at the animal shelter, from cat litter boxes to food to litter to whatever. And I know people have come to the call for them. Some more for animals than people, as I've seen in the past. But, and I'm looking at the city down the road next year, putting on, when I'll drive it, an auction for the state and these animals. But if you can help with the animal shelter, if you're that type of person, and it takes a special person to do it, they need your help.
Betsy, how much did they collect during that time?
It was 1,600 pounds of food, and they adopted out 30 dogs and 15 cats.
Wow, that's good. Wow, that's great.
But now 1,600 pounds of animal food don't last long.
How does that?
They
work?
use about 200 pounds a day, is what I was
If
told.
you don't mind me asking you, Mayor, how does that work? When the dog gets locked up in the city, we take it down, are we responsible for feeding the dog?
No.
Once
Once we take the animal there, if it's someone's animal and there is a fine, the animal shelter collects that fine. And they keep it top right now. How much is collected, I couldn't tell you that. But we should, and we do when they, if we're told, hey, we're running low on dog food, would you help us out, we always do.
Let me mention one other thing, because I've been contacted on this from both sides. I've seen a big influx into homeless in the city. Right across my office at the train station, they're in there, in the Amtrak, and at the Lockley courtyard, the park. It's a sad state of affairs. I see a lady, I helped her today out here. Her and her son. And they got a dog. And they don't have anywhere to go. It may get worse before it gets better. It may not get any better. But I don't think that's going to get better. So I don't know the answer to that. But I've seen more of it in the last 2 months than I ever have. And I'm there on that area every day.
Can I say one thing about that? While you're talking about it, I know the cold weather's coming, and I know last year it got below the 32 degrees freeze. Do we have anything in place with the county in case it gets below? Because we might not have another meeting before this happens.
Well, in the past, and during the summer, the emergency management with the county opened up a cooling shelter. I'm assuming they're gonna do the same thing during the winter. We don't have anything or any place per se. But they operated, I think, out of their fire department there on South First Avenue.
We need to have a place, us or somebody else, that we can.
Like I said, they did it back during the summer, and I think you did a little bit in the winter this past winter. They did that.
But can we not try to work on something, because it's gonna affect us, I feel it coming. And we need to try to have something in place. If we can get with the county to help us, just like Mary said, we need to have something in place for it. If it gets below the 32-degree threshold.
Well, we're at 32. We had a snap last year about 3 days where it was down to 4 or 5 degrees. And, you know, Marion was open, Mullins was open in the mornings, and I just want Dillon to have somewhere, you know, something.
I'll follow up with the county on that.
Especially you said that the lady was out with a child.
Well, the child's 20 years old. It's her son. They're both. The dog looks like a wild.
It's still the child, though.
Still a child. They're not a small child. The dog looked like, you remember Spanky in the game, when Little Rascal, exactly like that dog. Yeah. So I'll.
Glenn,
Yes, ma'am.
I still have that graffiti on.
I have spoke with those twice this month and to remind them, so
And that's at
hopefully,
that same corner.
yeah, they're gonna take that stop sign out, supposedly put a new one in now.
So that stuff need to come down as soon as they go up. We'll let them know it's not gonna happen.
Thank you for my light.
Well, we'll talk about that. Let me talk to you about that later.
Okay,
Yeah,
if
that's
there's
good.
good, if there's nothing else for the discuss council meeting, I make a motion to adjourn, we need to go into executive session.
We'll make that motion.